The last two angle pairs that you need to be able to work with are supplementary angles and complementary angles. Right? Supplementary angles first are defined as the pair of angles that have measures that add up to 180 degrees. Right? It doesn't matter whether they're adjacent or not. Right? They don't have to be adjacent angles. If they are, it's called a linear pair. Right? So angles 1 and 2 would be a pair of supplementary angles. But they could be non-adjacent. So you could take two right angles, let's say, angles 3 and 4. Oops. And those angles would also be considered supplementary. Any pair of angles that add up to 180 degrees are supplementary. The second pair of angles that you have to be aware of is complementary angles. Complementary angles add up to 90 degrees. So once again, they could be adjacent angles. A model of that would be a pair of right angles. In this case, angle 5 and 6. If they together form a right angle, then they would be complementary. And then they could also just be non-adjacent angles. So you could have an angle like 80 degrees and 10 degrees. If these two angles, let's call them A and B, were identified, those also would be considered complementary angles. Okay, so the easiest thing to think about is if you're given a specific angle, finding the supplement and complement. Okay, if you get confused when you're asked to do a question like this on a quiz test or final, one of the ways that I always try to explain a nice little visual way to remember which one is 90 and which one is 180 is if you look at the letters that appear in these words. And complementary has one P. If you think of the reflected image of P, it looks like a 9. Let that represent 90. Supplementary has two of those, so there's two 90s. So really you're looking at complementary angles is 90 degrees, supplementary angles is 290 degrees, or a total of 180 degrees. Okay? All right, so when you're looking just to find them, easiest thing that you could possibly do is be given an angle, find its supplement and complement. So what would be the supplement of 23 degrees? 157, right? And you found that by taking 23 degrees and doing what with it? Subtracting from 180. So if you took your given angle, subtract that from 180, you'll find the supplement. So what would be the complement of 23 degrees? 67. Do the same idea, except we subtract the given angle from 90. So this is going to come back later to help us out, but that's just the basic way of finding any supplement and any complement. So if we look down at, let's jump to this last row, 115 degrees. What would be the supplement of 115? 65, that's the difference between 180 and 115. And what would be the complement? You'd get a negative number, right? We're not going to be dealing with any negative angles. When you get into the trig of pre-cal, you'll start talking about negative angles being in a negative rotation. But here we're not. So if that happens, none. It's not possible to have a complement of an angle that's not acute. Right? It has to be acute to have a complement. Okay, so let's take a look at what happens as we increase the difficulty level slightly. Okay? What if we give our angle in terms of an expression? So we call our angle 7x. What would be the expression to represent the supplement of that angle? Here's our relationship. So we're simply taking 180, subtracting our given angle, and that becomes our supplement. Okay, so again, it's still really consistent. It fits that pattern. So the complement of 7x is going to be 90 minus 7x. Okay, so what happens, though, when we do something like this? What if we give the angle an expression that has more than just one term? Okay, if this happens, we use the same concept that we did here. You just need to work through it and simplify your remaining expressions. Okay, so we use the same idea for all of these. We take 180, we subtract our given angle, even if our angle has two terms in the expression, and then you just simplify that result. So if we simplify, we distribute our negative sign through, we get 180 minus 10x, minus a minus becomes plus 7. And so the totally simplified form, when we combine our like terms, we get 187 minus 10x as our solution. Okay, so make sure that you simplify that properly. You'll always see me go through all of the steps to show the distributing, okay, but be really careful with it. It's very common to make a mistake on this. Okay, so the complement of this same expression, 10x minus 7, you take your 90 minus your given angle, even if it's two terms, and then simplify your result by distributing your negative through. So 90 minus a 10x minus a minus becomes plus 7. So you get 97 minus 10x as your angle.